Hello, BookTube. I'm doing another tag today, and my quest this week to catch up with tags. I wanted to do a tag every day. Didn't make any videos yesterday, but I'm making a tag today. I'm just going to keep making tags until I catch up on the backlog of ones that I've either been tagged in or that looked really good, whether I was tagging them or not. And this next one didn't start off life as a tag, but it's the kind of nosy and subjective and personal questions that I just love. I want to know these about all of you. It's Shawn D. Standfast on his channel had a comment from a viewer of his that it struck Shawn immediately that he could make it into a tag, that these are good enough questions to make into a tag. So he did that. It's the how do you tag. And the first question is, do you read more than one book at a time? If yes, what are you reading? And do you read one book at a time certain day or at another time of day? How does that arrange? I know that most of you have many books going at the same time. I'm willing to bet that's the majority of people on BookTube, and probably outside of BookTube, probably the general reading world. Readers probably tend to have more than one book going at the same time. I'm not sure how much that applies to critics. Critics like myself, we might be more inclined to gopher through one book after another. Because it just doesn't pay. If you're contracted, if you're commissioned to review something, it doesn't pay to get distracted. But I bet most of you have many books going at the same time. I do not. Not many. Not in the way that the rest of you do, where you pick up a book and you're not in the mood for it, and you've got another book going that calls forth a different mood. That sort of thing I don't do at all. I have a book in the bathroom that I leave in there because otherwise you go in, you forget, suddenly you're staring at the wall. I don't want to do that. That's valuable reading time. That's when you reach the ripe old age of 28. Sometimes it takes a bit of time for the train to leave the station. So you don't want to get caught there without a book. And right now the book there in the bathroom is a volume that we've seen on this channel. It's a cute little trade paperback of the collected prose of the great poet Marianne Moore, who wrote poetry and attended Red Sox games and did her thing on the Dick Cavett show and whatnot, but who also, like every other able-bodied writer, had a side gig doing book reviews all the time. I swear, 90% of the great literary names that we know for other reasons, and that they very much want us to know for other reasons, kept their hands dirty with book reviews the whole time. And Marianne Moore was one of those, and a publisher put together a big fat volume. I had it as a hardcover, but then I found a trade paperback and liked it even better. And I've been going through collected book reviews in the bathroom. Not as any kind of intentional slight on my own chosen profession, but rather because these things beg to be considered individually rather than I don't know how many euphemisms I can bear here. These things, I have found a great deal of value, as the Dude Bro channels say, in reading these things one or two at a time. Should I put it that way? They're all about, most of them, 95% of them are about books that are no longer in print, books that had their day in the sun and are gone. So you're reading these things for the reviewer. You're reading them for Peter Prescott or Virginia Woolf or Marianne Moore. You're not reading them for the book. And that's great. That's a good reminder, a very salient reminder to me in my own profession as a book critic, that that's the kind of thing I should be writing. Right? These pieces should justify their existence by themselves, without regard. It shouldn't be a question of, well, I'm burning to know what this author's take is on the latest X, Y, or Z, and the main bulk of my motivation for reading them is the latest take part. It should be that you want to read this author, and that it boils down to the writer to make their prose readable. And Marianne Moore does a fantastic job. She really does. She's not phoning these things in. They are delightful. And some of, like for instance, in the collected essays of Virginia Woolf, that series, I only have 2 volumes. I have 1 and 2. There are a whole bunch of others out there that I want, but I'm not going to order books online, not after seeing the horror stories that Shawn himself has shown viewers. I will wait. Sooner or later, the Brattle will provide. But in some of they're going in chronological order, those Virginia Woolf volumes, and the earliest ones are her very first reviews for the TLS. And some of those, heresy as it is to say, are clearly phoned in. And Marianne Moore just doesn't do that. I think by the time she was doing this, she was well aware of the fact that everything would be scrutinized. Every word she wrote would be scrutinized. So she wrote it all accordingly, which was it was a temptation to forget that in those early days of the TLS because the reviews were all anonymous. So, a 30-year-old Virginia Woolf writing reviews for the TLS might have thought, well, no matter what I do or don't do here, no one's ever going to know it. So that would be my answer to here. Usually I am beetling my way through a book, and I take it with me everywhere, to the couch out in the other room if it's warm enough, to the little book room here on the nightstand, on the subway, in my bag, wherever I'm going, wherever I expect to have downtime. That is what I'm doing until I'm done with it, and then I move on to the next one. That works for me. I know that from dealing with a lot of you over the years that it doesn't that doesn't work for a lot of you. And as to the time of day, well, it's going to be once a day. Once you reach the ripe old age of 28, it's going to be once a day. I don't know the exact time, but then question number 2 is, how do you organize your library? And I've seen some of you on BookTube that organize your library alphabetically by author's last name. Incredible. The whole thing. And in a way, a part of me envies that, because the only way you can do that is if you have just one wall, 3 bookcases, probably a maximum of 600 books. And I've been in that position many, many times in my life. But right now, I have thousands of books, and I don't organize them that way. The most that I will do is general group organizing. So the bookcase that's right in front of me here, the one that's winking suggestively at me in every video that I make, is my romance bookcase. I worked to assemble enough romance novels so that they fill the entire bookcase. There is nothing else here but romances. And that is all there. I don't keep romances anywhere else. There's the Penguin Classic wall. Over my other shoulder, there is a bookcase that is now completely full. I need to address that. I need to break that out into the bookcase next to it, of books about books, books of literary essays, books of introductions and prefaces, books of my life as an editor, my life as an author, that kind of thing. Books that are directly adjacent to my own career, and that I spend so much time at that bookcase, pulling things down, not just wondering. There's a new volume of Chekhov short stories that are coming out. Pevier and Volokonsky are doing a translation of Chekhov short stories. So, of course, I'm going to want to go to that bookcase and just stand there, pulling down one book after another to see who thought what of Chekhov over a century of English translations. But it's not just that. I'm also going to want to read, what life was like in the trenches for editors and for freelance reviewers. And I spent a lot of time there. So those are all organized. I got sick of hunting around for all of those. And my history is all organized, all in one place, all along one wall. My biography is all in one place, all along another wall. But mostly, this room would be a nightmare to an organization freak, because the books are mostly everywhere, as you would have been able to tell if you watched my library tour of this room. The Penguins are all together, but most of the rest of the stuff isn't. For instance, science fiction and fantasy, I have quite a bit of it, but it's everywhere. The only other ironclad organization anywhere here is Forthcoming Books. The most visited bookcase that I have is the one that's out in the other room, and it is Forthcoming Books organized by month of release. And then the top shelf of that is the current month, the month we're in now, and that is organized by week of release from left to right, so that I know exactly what I'm doing and exactly where things are. And that's the one where I do the equivalent of rearranging your whole bookcase in order to keep your books alphabetical by author by name, because I will rearrange that whole thing. I rearrange it every month to move all the books up one shelf, and I also am constantly fidgeting and finessing that top shelf. The March books, for instance, today, constantly looking through it and figuring what I want to review, what I don't want to review, what's commissioned elsewhere, all that sort of stuff. But aside from that, science fiction and fantasy isn't everywhere. The mystery novels that I've been reading in such profusion in 2020 are not everywhere. They're not in one place. They're all over the place. New releases from 2018, 2019, 2017, they're scattered everywhere. Not with like. A nightmare. It's just a nightmare. Question number 3, do you ever get the urge to reorganize your library in a different way? Yes, I do. And I dream this. I know that every book person dreams this. Probably it would never happen. But I dream of finding a couple of key log-jamming bookcases. A couple of tall, thin bookcases that are new. I'm not going to pay for anything online. I'm going to find these things at the yard sale or in the discard, on the sidewalk waiting for the dump truck or whatever. And that's how I found most of the bookcases that I have here. I know exactly what I want them to look like. And if I could find a couple of those, then all of a sudden I would have room to maneuver. And I would also have the mental stimulus to pull everything down off their shelves now and reorganize everything. I'd want biography to be cleaner and clearer. I'd want history to be cleaner and clearer. I'd want all of the stuff that isn't organized to suddenly be organized. All the nature writing, all of the mystery novels, all that sort of stuff. I need those logjam bookcases, and maybe that will happen. Maybe it'll happen soon. I don't mean to be ghoulish, but Boston schools are shutting down their dormitories and kicking out their students. Those students suddenly have to they're not being given housing elsewhere. They just have to find someplace to go. So I would imagine that the next few trash days everywhere in Student Central are going to be covered in mattresses and bookcases and whatnot from stuff that these students can't take with them wherever it is that they're going. And, I understand the university's decision to do that, because can you imagine if this disease, this virus, actually does take off, as it has in every other country? Every other country where it has appeared, there have been a few cases, then a few clusters of cases, and then it skyrockets. And that's happened in every other country. And the estimate that you saw on the nightly news last night, I'm sure that you were glued and watching, is that the United States is 2 weeks behind the other countries where that's happened, at the most 2 weeks behind. Which means that by April, this thing will be exploding. Can you imagine, if you're on the board of trustees at a college and you're imagining that sweeping through dormitories, not even the humanitarian aspect, just the legal aspect. God help us, your lawyers would be all over you morning, noon, and night saying you have to get this done. You have to get these people out of here. Imagine what it would be like if Boston College was suddenly posting 1,000 people confirmed for coronavirus in one dormitory. Now, so they're all gone. So there may be an influx of bookcases that I will disinfect and inherit from some poor student. I don't know. I'm gonna look around today and see whether or not what's going on with the relief efforts for those students. Is it possible that a student at Tufts or Boston College or whatever needs a place to stay for a few weeks here? There's no reason why that can't happen. I have to look and see in that, but that's the only way that I would reorganize. The rest of it, this is a pokey little area. As you've seen from my book tour, it's a pokey little area. It's no smaller than I want. I don't want books sprawling everywhere. I don't. The days of books piled in the laundry room or on the shelves above the counters in the kitchen, I don't want that to happen. But a little bit more room would allow me to reorganize everything, or at least feel that I would be able to. Question number 4 is, who's your favorite small or finer press? Who's your favorite small press publisher? And for me, I was thinking about this for a bit. I think of all the other contenders, but the one that has brought me the most pleasure over the years, that is still relatively small, would be Europa Editions. They're first of all, most of all of what they do is paperback originals. God bless them. That is fantastic. Every publisher should do that. So the season's new Europa editions are all in these attractive trade paperbacks that are affordable. So you could, without bankrupting yourself, you could buy every Europa edition that comes out. Try doing that for every Random House edition that comes out, for every Viking Press edition that comes out. You'd run out of money before you'd run out of books, I feel certain. But not only that, but Europa editions, I love the adventurousness of their editorial choices. So that would be it for me. Then question number 5 is, can you recall every book you have in your library, or are there books you find on your shelf that just seem to have shown up? This is a popular question that people who don't read a lot or who have small libraries will often ask of people who do read a lot and have huge libraries. They will say, do you know all these books? I mean, do you know where they are? Can you find everything? Have you read everything? I mercifully don't get that stereotypical bane of all existence questions very often. Have you read all of these? Although, if I did, I think my answer would be different from a lot of readers, as you could tell, again, from my library tour. I had this pointed out. A number of people emailed me and said, well, good God, man, where are every book that you're pulling out, you not only remember in detail, but have some story about, or have written about. Where are all the books in your personal library that you haven't read? I had so many people email me over the course of the year when I was doing that library tour in 2019 and ask a variation of that question. Well, I tend to keep the books I like. So the answer to the question, where are the books you haven't read, is the one bookcase that wasn't in that library tour, which is the aforementioned forthcoming books. There are quite a few books on the forthcoming shelf that I haven't read yet. But the rest of them, no. If somebody comes in here and says, do you know where all these things are? I pretty much do. If somebody says, do you know all these books? Well, can I list them all from memory? No, probably not. But do I know them? Yes, I have read them all. Almost all of them. 99% of the books here that I keep, I have read. I guess that's not true with a lot of you. I guess a lot of you have unread books on your shelves. I'd be curious to know, one of the nosy details that I always want to know, what percentage of your library, of your personal library, are unread? And how long do they stay there? I know that's the nature of, like, for instance, Jason at Old Blues Chapter and Verse and Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading are spearheading this idea in their own personal library to read the books that are there instead of mindlessly accumulating more. And that presupposes that there is a large number of such books. And I wonder if that's true for the rest of you. I got the impression from the emails that I got last year that I'm in the minority here in terms of having read most of the books in my collection, almost all of them. But so I don't usually feel like a book has just shown up. I very seldom forget that I own something. And I can usually put my hand on it. Sometimes not. About once a month, I will be in the position of just wandering around saying, where on earth are you? I know I have you. Where are you? Maybe that happens more than once a month. I don't know. And then question number 6 is, do you collect bookmarks? And I do. Yes. Slowly. I'm not making a fetish out of it, but I like bookmarks with tassels or some sort of strand so that it flops off the cover of the book from the outside. And I have quite a few of them. I'm wondering if I have one within eyesight to show you what I mean. Well, yeah, this is The Way We Live Now, and you can see I made this one myself because I inherited from an old Barnes & Noble store that went out of business about 1 million of these Barnes & Noble bookmarks. And all of them came with a hole already punched at the top, just inviting you to make tassels out of it, and also inviting you to add artwork. I've done that to quite a few of these. Illustration on one side, quote on the other, with borders and color and everything. It's a great deal of fun. I do a lot more of it, but it's time consuming, and that time could be better spent reading. but those are the kinds of bookmarks that I prefer. I don't usually buy them at Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble always has a spinner rack of such books, all with tassels, and every once in a while I'll see a design that I like. There was one that I love, but it had a TARDIS. It had the Doctor Who's TARDIS, and the quote on it was, "It's bigger on the inside," which is about the TARDIS is non-relativistic in dimensions, so it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. But that's also true of books, and that makes a great. That quote is fantastic for books, that they're bigger on the inside. That was an inspired choice, and I have that and love it. But I usually don't do that. I usually prefer to make my own. So I will if I get a used book like this Robert E. Howard collection, I will make a bookmark for it, and then find a great quote somewhere in the book, and then illustrate the whole thing with ornate borders and colors and whatnot, and add that quote, and that's a lot of fun. So I make the bookmarks that I tend to collect, but they all have tassels. I love that, absolutely love it. And I confess, when I'm at the Brattle Bookshop, and I'm prowling the outside carts for books, I will sometimes encounter bookmarks that are stuffed in a book, and that's always fun. And that is it. That is the How Do You tag, which Shawn Standfast weaponized a set of questions into a tag. I've done that, and I think he's the only other person who's done that. And all that's left for me to do is tag people. Of course, I want to tag everybody because these are great, nosy questions. I will tag My Reading Life. I will tag Faith&Books, Hannah's Books, Liz Schubert. I don't think I've tagged you in quite some time. Peg at the History Shelf, to do the How Do You tag about how do you handle your... Oh, yes, of course. And also Britta. Wouldn't want her running out of tags to do, would we? In quarantine over in Germany. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. That was a lot of fun. Thank you, Shawn, for tagging me. And I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.